Hello and welcome to We Got Issues, the comic book podcast that needs to know, where does Hulk get those purple pants? I'm Brian Compton, aka BComp, and joining me as always is my BFF, my boy, my bro, whatever you want to call it, Josh Marquith, the Jimmy Olsen to my Rick Jones.
Two sidekicks. You're throwing me
Two
off
sidekicks,
this one.
yeah, I messed around with you. Who do you think is the best sidekick in comics, actually?
Well, that's a good question. Who was the first one? Was that Robin? Was Robin the first sidekick?
Yeah, oh man, don't put me on the spot like this.
No,
but
yeah,
maybe.
I know.
It's gotta be
we'll
Robin. Robin or Jimmy Olsen.
Hey,
or
in the lore of We Got Issues, Robin is the very first one.
There we go.
We'll say that.
You're not a snapper car guy?
Snapper car. Oh God, even
or even worse than that, Green Lantern's pie face.
Oh, you want to get worse than that? Let's go with Toro, who is the sidekick to Human Torch. That's out of nowhere. Like nobody cared for him.
Yeah. I've always been a Rick Jones guy, actually. I always liked him. He's always literally the perpetual sidekick. You know, like they can make him Captain Marvel, they can make him possibly Venom, and it doesn't matter. He's always going to be the poor Rick Jones sidekick.
We'll discuss Abomination too. I think he's one of the most underrated psychic characters, because when you go through his history, you're like, oh my God, he's kind of been everywhere.
He's everywhere.
I'm surprised he hasn't been used as much anymore. Like he hasn't.
Well, he's currently, and I'm sorry to interrupt you on that.
No,
but
good.
Right now, the new Venom, the all new Venom. It's him, J. Jonah Jameson. I'm sorry, Robbie Robertson, or Luke Cage, or possibly or Madame Mask or something like that. There's basically like 4 people it could possibly be. He's one of the possibilities.
Oh, gotcha. I'd love to have Rick Jones, because he's been in everything else. I mean,
yeah, pretty much.
It would be it would be an awesome book, and I swear to God, if Marvel takes this from me, like he is like an undercover, like SHIELD, like Black Ops guy. He turns out to be, because he has all these ins and stuff. He kind of becomes not like a Nick Fury, but a pseudo under Nick Fury, kind of like what they kind of make Coulson a little bit. Like that could have been a good Rick Jones, and he has his own insight. He's like a spy master almost.
Phil Coulson is now the embodiment of death. He has the Death Stone of the Infinity Gauntlets. Yes, he has the seventh stone, or 8th stone if you consider the Ego Gem from the Ultraverse. But he has the Death Stone now. He is the okay, I'm not going to get into it.
There's so many weird and nerdy things in that one sentence that it's just. I think we just have to just kind of get past this and move on past this. Just before we lose people, they're like, well, there's 3 other stones.
Also, who the hell's Rick Jones?
Right, who's Rick Jones? And Coulson, you mean the guy who wrote that Ghost movie that Harrison Ford was in? Did you know that? Clark Gregg wrote that.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
What was that movie called? What Lies Beneath?
I was going to say, was it What Lies Beneath? Is the only movie I can think of that or Indiana Jones 4, but or 2. Speaking of Indiana Jones.
Yeah. So let's actually get to the show. So thank you everybody who's been like keeping with us so far.
I'm tired. I'm so tired.
I know. I mean, and we can cut this out if you wanted to, but you want an official congrats of the We Got Issues to the addition to the family.
Yeah. I don't usually like to talk too much about, like the other stuff in my life, but I just had a little baby, and she's doing very well, but it means 1 to 2 hours of sleep. Yeah, I'm baby brain. So I apologize in advance.
And I have no excuse. So it's going to be a fun one. This one's going to be a fun episode. Episode 6 is the baby episode. So, all right, enough tangents, enough off the.
But I digress.
Yeah. So as we teased on our last episode, the movie Captain America: Brave New World is coming out actually next week, and we thought we would do something a little bit different than we normally do, which is we kind of are doing a character dive into one of the major characters that's been introduced in this movie. It's his first time in the MCU, essentially, this version of the character, but we're going to be talking about the Red Hulk and more of the history, and just give you kind of a little bit of info that you can go and show off and say, you just listen to this, show off to your friends, say like, yeah, I know about Red Hulk. Here's all this info that I learned about. So
we'll also talk about some of the other MCU stuff that's kind of
yes.
swirling around as well, because the FF trailer just dropped like this week. I mean, then also the Daredevil Born Again trailer dropped a couple weeks ago. So just kind of a fun discussion about all the MCU stuff too.
Yeah, and Born Again is coming off pretty hot off the heels, right on the heels of Captain America, because it comes out in March. So
does it? Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's again, the MCU took a little bit of sabbatical, but they're just coming out hot. So with all these, but before we get into any of this, per usual, we got a question that needs an answer. What sponsor are we having for this episode?
Well, I'm going to guess it's probably the same sponsor we've had for the last 5.
What? Yes, it is. No, it's.
And, you want to tackle this one, buddy?
Oh, yes. This is going to be the spiel that we cover every time so brilliantly and amazingly. Are you on the lookout for something a little more weird than your run-of-the-mill snacks? Then you need to do yourself a favor and check out Duff & Shaw Snacks. From sour cherry Mothman eggs to forbidden sour gummies, Duff & Shaw snacks and candy are curated from the most mysterious and undiscovered places on planet Earth, uncovering flavors that will give you stories to tell your grandchildren. Now go to duffandShaw.com/issues today and check out all they've got and more. That's duffandShaw.com/issues, and that helps out the podcast. So please order from there. They have really good snacks and candy, though.
I saw someone ordered some. Like, oh, we're getting a little kickback. Well, it was you.
No, it was me. So hopefully we don't get a kickback. But yeah, I ordered some because I got some in our stocking over the holiday time. And I got the sour cherry Mothman eggs, and they were really good.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and from the sour cherry kind of red balls that you kind of get, like they have good ones in Disneyland, but I really like these ones. These are
okay.
These are actually top tier.
I legitimately love like sour cherry, the little gummy ones with the crunch on it. Yeah, I love those.
Yes, they're very good. They weren't too hard. They're just some right amount of soft, and right. And sometimes you kind of get duds of those too. Like yeah. So these ones were just great, each one. So
okay, I mean, good to know.
Yeah. So please check them out. Please give us some love too.
That's an endorsement right there, is what I'm hearing.
That's a full endorsement. Full-fledged
sponsorship, an endorsement.
Yes. So we've upped our game. We've evolved into endorsement land. So
that's funny. Well, as you had said previously, we are going to be talking about Captain America: Brave New World and the state of the MCU and all of that. How have you felt about the MCU? Like, what is your general take on? I mean, like, I don't want to say like go phase by phase, but what has your ride been with the MCU, as it were?
Look, I've been a Marvel MCU kind of fanboy and apologist for a lot of the stuff. Yes, there's been some ups and downs, but in general, let's just say I haven't had the superhero fatigue that everybody keeps. That seems to be like an easy news line and news headlines. Superhero fatigue, is that real? It's what's going on with superhero fatigue. Yeah. I just love the content, so that's not really something for me. I love the new stories and stuff, and some of the movies haven't been my favorite, but I don't think they've been as bad as a lot of people said. Like the Marvels, that hasn't been my favorite, but I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people have said. I think it's because they're putting on the same level or same tier as like Endgame and Winter Soldier and things like that. So it's a hard curve to kind of get to.
Yeah.
And sometimes us nerds are not great with change or decisions. So a lot of that gets in the way of it. Some of the news gets in the way of it.
Yeah.
Especially the Marvels, but also the Eternals and things like that. It depends really on the team, really, too. The team behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's been kind of to your point, I think it's really been up and then down a little bit. I mean, really peaked hard with, Infinity War and Endgame and like Spider-Man after that. It was like really, really high of highs. And like I said, I love Winter Soldier, and I love
Mhm.
a lot of those movies. Post phase 3, though, there has been a little bit of a letdown. And I think we've discussed it before. And if we haven't, we'll hear it now. I think there's a couple of things that kind of really hurt the MCU. Number one being COVID. Like that was like,
Yeah.
that like threw everything, that just threw a monkey wrench in everybody's plans. Um, Number two being Disney Plus of it all. I think that them having to force product out as quick as they have, it really watered down and diluted the brand a bit.
Mhm.
I think that Chadwick Boseman dying was a big hurt on them as well. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that helped them at all. And there's a few other things too, but I mean, like, you're looking at like those kind of things that really, you look at like what happened, and oh yeah, and the other one's John Majors too. The John Majors of it all, really,
Yeah.
like, they were going full bore with him with Kang, and they're like, oh crap, and they've had to rejigger everything. So you combine all those things, and it's like, oh well, yeah, the MCU's dead, and look at the Eternals and how bad it was, and this and the next thing. And it's ironic, like I just poo-pooed the Disney Plus element of it all, but that's where the Eternals would have shined, is if you had done the
Mhm.
Eternals as like an 8-episode miniseries where each episode focused on one character, and then they all come together at the end for this big story. I think that's where they would have done well. Like, it's definitely up and down for me.
Yeah, I think when you mention the Disney Plus and just the oversaturation of it, which again, I just talked about superhero fatigue. I didn't have that,
Yeah.
but what the thing with that is, I think with the characters, they needed creators who knew about the
Yeah.
characters or understood them. And
Mhm.
I don't think they had those for a lot of the shows.
Yeah.
So, case in point, I think Echo, which
Yeah.
on the surface, I think could have been a lot better. They
Mhm.
tried to change a lot of stuff where the creator didn't even like the character's power. Like the reason why it's called Echo
Echo is
was
because
just she's
she's
like
basically
Taskmaster.
Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
Whatever
but
you
they
can I can
changed
do better.
yeah, they changed it to some metaphysical or mystical type of echo through
Yeah.
her bloodline or something like that. And they had the Kingpin. You had these mystical elements mixed in with somebody like the Kingpin.
Street level.
The street level to a street level character. It was I think it
Mhm.
was too much and too
Yeah.
much for the character. What it was more it was simpler. I would have loved more of
So street
like
level, like Hawkeye.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And it really could have been a lot more fun if they kept it street level
With
and had it more. It could have had more of that Justified vibe. You know that show
oh
Justified?
yeah, to me O's.
Yeah, yeah. I think it really would have been a fun because she's coming back into her old
Mhm.
life and the trying to change. It has that Justified kind of
Mhm. Vibe.
um vibe and energy with it too. Which Chadwick Boseman was in Justified for an episode too. He was like
Oh, nice.
a magic man type of like guy. It was pretty funny. He
No,
did like sleight of hand magic.
okay.
I was trying to learn it, but no, I think it could have been like a fun if they went the Justified route. So like and really turn the stuff like that. They had like a lot of unnecessary stuff with that, and I think the same kind of goes with She-Hulk.
Yeah. It's sad because like I know you have thoughts about She-Hulk and Moon Knight and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I actually enjoyed Moon Knight. It should have been a movie. I like She-Hulk. But I am also a She-Hulk apologist. I love Jennifer Walters. She's one of my favorite characters. So like I'm like, it's fine. Like I didn't mind a lot of the stuff in it. Miss Marvel, ironically enough, is where I started to kind of like lose a little bit of my vibe with it. And it wasn't because like I thought the actors were bad or the story was bad or the characters were bad. It was honestly the CGI in it. There's like one point, I think in like one of the final episodes, like some guy gets burned and turned to like a skull, and it looked like worse than Agents of Shield CGI. I was like, oh, you guys over at Marvel are stretched thin. There
Oh
was
yeah.
no way that would have ever gone into a movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's where I was like, and that kind of concurrently went, I think, when Obi-Wan was going on over at Star Wars for Disney Plus, which I know that the Star Wars and MCU are they're separate, but they're both part of the Disney Plus kind of family. And it was like some of the stuff that was happening in Obi-Wan, I was like, what is going on here? Like
Mm.
it's like this is like, yeah. I just say at that point, like the kind of like the ground fell apart for a lot of that Disney Plus stuff, and then it's like you start to go back and look at everything. You're like, oh yeah, the cracks were in the facade this whole time. We just never saw them. You know what I mean? Because like up to that point, man, everyone was buzzing. We were buzzing about Loki. We were buzzing about WandaVision. We were buzzing about Hawkeye. I remember even like Hawkeye when like they cuts that smash cut at the end, and it's the "You're a rotten Mr. Grinch," and they have the outline of Kingpin. I was like, holy shit, they added Kingpin to this. Like, I was like, oh my God. And then within like a show or two, by the end, I was like, I don't care anymore,
Yeah, I did like She-Hulk when it was first starting. I think it was a little bit of a waste of potential. With you just do the Dan Slott book. That's all you needed to do.
Yep, and the Charles Soule one too. Either one.
So I mean, they went away from more of the court stuff, and then the fourth wall, breaking the fourth wall, like many fourth wall breaks at the end. Which that's She-Hulk. That's great, but
that's what she does.
The Kevin Feige bot, the
Disney Plus
bro, stuff. The Hulk bro Sakaar showing up in the worst haircut of all the MCU.
To be fair, though, it's like that stuff is in the books. There's plenty of times, like, She-Hulk would literally rip through the page and go through the ads of the page to get to the next story, or the fact that she'd reference, the book was so much better when Peter David was writing this, and like Hulk's like, what are you talking about? So it fits. But to your point, I agree with you in the sense that they're like, well, we decided not to do any courtroom stuff because we didn't have a lawyer on staff to help us with that. I'm like, that's your fault then.
Yeah, that's bad production.
That is your fault. You should have hired a lawyer to help you write that stuff then. Because like the guy who wrote the second arc after Dan Slott was Charles Soule, and I believe he was a lawyer. So why didn't you bring that comic writer in who wrote She-Hulk, who was a lawyer, who got the character, and you could have brought him in? That's when it's like, oh, guys, don't admit that next time,
To be clear, too, I don't mind the fourth wall breaks, but when it's like the end, and that's like the bad guy, the payoff of the whole thing, that's when I'm like, it doesn't really fit for me. And then,
well, and also this is also when Thor 4 came out too, which I know a lot of people do not care for Thor 4.
Yeah,
I think we've had this discussion. Like, I have good memories of watching it because maybe it was just the audience I was with, because I went with a bunch of G4 people, and maybe it was just a good vibe. But then like afterwards, I was like, wow, maybe I watched a different movie than everybody else.
I really loved Thor Ragnarok. Taika Waititi. It seemed like Taika Waititi was really trying hard on the third one, and then he phoned it on the fourth one.
He phoned it on the fourth one. He was more interested in having threesomes, to be honest.
and then how many screaming goat jokes can you have? And then they really took the Christian Bale's villain character and totally. This is what happened with Justice League too, as well. Like, you have Darkseid, who's this great character, and then you have Thor, who's this great character. It's supposed to be the God Killer. The God Killer is very, very, evil, or just a big deal. And he gets beat the first time he meets Thor. He basically gets beat up the first time he meets Thor. So it's like, it's not that big of a threat. Same with like Darkseid at the very beginning of the Justice League movie.
Yeah.
The Zack Snyder cut, or whatever cut you want.
Yeah.
He gets beat at the very beginning. So you're like, why is he a big threat when we've already beaten him? Like, it's
well, I'm shaking in my boots.
Yeah, and it wasn't like, oh, we barely survived. No, like, they almost killed him in the very beginning. So it takes the winds out of the sails right away. So I'm like, why do I even care? Again, with Gore, why do I even care?
So it's funny. The arc is like rise and then kind of fall for the MCU. And then I will say, of late, the last two like major projects out of the MCU, I actually enjoyed. Now, one of them, it's not kind of fair to call it an MCU film, even though it is, and that was the Wolverine Deadpool film. Because essentially, it's like, it was a denouement for the Fox universe, and it was paying off a lot of that stuff. They had the TVA in it and all that. And there's the fun cameos on it. And that was an excellent movie. Enjoyed the hell out of it. You know what I mean?
It was fan service at the wazoo, but
absolutely,
I'm a fan, so I got service. So,
but it wasn't like, haha, wink, wink, look at us, we're doing this thing. It's like, no, look at this, we're doing this thing. The wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I hate. It's when it's like, look at this. It's like, yes, like, I mean, I damn near screamed when Weapon X from the Age of Apocalypse arrived. I like literally almost screamed in my seat, like a little girl. The other one that actually really surprised me of the MCU of late was WandaVision. WandaVision, I'm sorry, Agatha.
Agatha all along, yeah.
I literally was like, I kind of don't care. The fact that this show felt like it got greenlit because Catherine Hahn made a funny GIF and like, well, that GIF was really funny. Let's make a whole show around her. I was like, I'm not feeling it. And like, I was like, oh, I'll watch the first episode. That's okay, not bad. Okay. And then by the end, I was like, this show really grew on me. And by the end, I was like, that was great. That was a great show. And they paid off everything really well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wasn't too much a fan of how it was paid off at the end. I was just kind of like,
That's
this,
fine.
yeah, which you could be wrong, Brian. That's okay.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
it's hey, no,
I can be. I'm not.
No,
but,
totally
I can be.
I can be.
I can be.
But I did. I mean, that song gets stuck in everybody's head for a couple weeks too, and then I mean, Patti LuPone was amazing in that.
Yeah, it was honestly a fun show and like I liked how like the low the stakes were. I liked how. I don't want to say the production value was low, but it was like, hey, we are not going to be a big budget show, and they worked around their own budget to make the show work. You know what I mean?
It seemed like each episode was a bottle episode.
I have high hopes that they've taken their foot off the accelerator as we go into Captain America 4, and they're like, okay, let's, instead of putting out so much content and spamming everybody with this crap, let's slow it down. The fact that they're like going back and they're shooting like a quarter of the film, they reshot like what, a whole fourth of the film.
Right.
They added a new character. It's like, oh my God, I'd worry. I'm like, no, because that's how Marvel finds their movies, in the edit bay. You know, they've always been like that. So,
well, that's how we got the snap too with Iron Man snap.
Yeah.
That was good.
Even the I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't want to go.
Right.
They couldn't get there until like they got it on that last take with Tom Holland. I was like, and that I was like, oh, when that happened, I was like, oh, and they got that later, not later, but they had to find it, you know?
Right. I mean, I didn't really see it because it was really misty in the theater for some reason, so my eyes were just watering like really bad.
Someone's cutting onions.
Don't know what's going on. Yeah, someone's cutting onions. So there was dust in the air. There was. I'm not joking. This is me being real with you, Brian. Okay, this is just between us, and then the dozens and dozens of people listen.
There are dozens of them.
I still get a little bit of a pit in my stomach every time I hear hear the Portals music.
Yeah.
For the soundtrack, the end game where it's like on your left and you see that Avengers like build up.
Yeah.
I'm even thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, that was just such a culmination moment. And that was just amazing with it.
It was. I mean, like I said, it peaked there. I don't know if they're ever going to ever hit that again. But even if they don't get there, like that's the A plus, those like Endgame and Infinity War and all that.
Yeah.
If they continue to hit Bs, because like Bs are like, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think Winter Soldier is like an A. I think Ragnarok is an A. You know, I think Endgame and Infinity Gauntlet are A's. But I think like if you hit like that Guardians of the Galaxy level, you know, which are solid Bs.
Right.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Which we may get in the next Avengers movies too. They got the Russo brothers. So
that's true.
Again, and they know how to craft those stories.
Well, I was going to say, it's not like their career post-Avengers has done very well. It's funny because, like, they've got some of the best sitcoms there. Arrested Development, Happy Endings, you know, like, these guys know how to do it. And I'm like, man, post-Endgame, their careers have not gone off well.
To be fair, though, do they really need to do a lot after the money truck that came in? Yeah, I think they're just kind of like, you know, we'll do this, we'll do that. Let's have more time with our family.
Well, that's why Robert Downey Jr. is coming back to the MCU. It's like, I got my Academy Award. Let's have some more fun. Let's be idle again. You know?
Right, yeah. It's the break glass in case of emergency thing.
Well, he's got more money than God. He's got his Academy Award. Why not just have fun with the rest of your career at that point, you know?
Hopefully with Secret Wars, I really hope this would never happen, but I really hope they bring in Terrence Howard to be Rhodey, like the other Rhodey.
Oh, man.
That would be amazing.
Well, it's interesting, too, because they are bringing Chris Evans back too, or rather Chris Evans has agreed to come back now. Go ahead.
No, he actually came out saying no, that was not real. So
that wasn't real. No,
yeah, but no, that's what he's saying. Who knows if he's right? You know, he's like, oh, I'm happily retired. Who knows if that's really the real thing? Again, we've heard that case before.
It's true, and I mean, imagine like, you know, it's like when you know how that Marvel press circuit is, like you're just constantly doing press. And it's like, you'd be able to just be like, I'm just going to come in and do this one-off. I'm sure like he did with Wolverine, Deadpool, or Wolverine or whatever. Like, you know, I mean, I'm sure he'd be down for it, as long as he doesn't have to do the constant, like, we're going to Japan, now we're going to China, now we're going to Russia, now we're going to England, now we're, it's like that press tour is a nightmare.
Yeah. But also, I bet he's kind of getting tired of every other press tour on every other movie. Like, you're going to be in the next Avengers. What's going on with your Avengers? And,
I'm sure his people say, don't ask. Do not ask.
Yeah.
Don't even ask. Well, speaking of other MCU stuff, I mean, are you excited for Cap 4, though? Or what's your thought on it?
I am. I'm one of it seems like one of the few people that really like the Hawkeye and the Winter Soldier. I like that. Yeah. Sorry, not Hawkeye.
The Captain and Bucky, the Falcon and Bucky show.
That other bird like name. I like that series, and that was one of the ones that got really hit hard by COVID because the whole story.
And stopped filming.
Yeah, it had a lot of great moments, and I really liked how this is going to be a continuation of it. Mackie is so good, and he's going to be great in this movie. I'm happy he's going to be driving this movie. And it's going to be really all the other elements that they're bringing into this movie too is opening it up so much more. It's one of those. I think it's one of those universe-changing movies.
We'll see, man. I mean, it's like, like I said, look at Ant-Man 3. Look at Secret Invasion.
Yeah,
Secret Invasion.
That was a big whiff. That was a whiff. That was the softball in the middle and the big whiff.
Yeah. Look, again, to your point, like, I agree with you. I'm on board for Cap 4. But what about, we mentioned this earlier, what about the FF? Speaking of 4, what about the Fantastic Four?
Which for some reason I didn't put it together. It came out on February 4th, F4. The trailer did. I don't know why that didn't hit for me. Because I had money. I have money on that we were going to get the trailer on Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, you still will. Still will. It'll drop. It'll do. They may even give it an extended cut or a cut down version. But we're getting that. It'll be on Super Bowl. I guarantee you. You're gonna get Cap 4 because they're gonna want to hype it before that. You're gonna get Fantastic 4, and you might get something else.
I just thought the big debut.
Yeah.
And don't worry. Also, Thunderbolts is coming out too.
Yeah. Well, I've got thoughts on Thunderbolts, but we'll save that for a second. What's funny, going back to my Nerdist days, I was so insistent that Marvel fucked up by not pushing Fantastic Four out faster to get it into the Marvel Phase 4, make the Fantastic Four Phase 4, and anchoring into that. Like, I was so pissed that they just did not make that happen. But I digress.
I mean, the timing seems good now because they're going a whole. I like the aesthetic that the trailer has.
So what did you think of? What did you think of the trailer overall?
I thought it was a fun trailer. It was a good teaser. I'm very surprised by it. By how much I like the aesthetic. I like how all the characters are together. I like how Pedro Pascal and the team is looking. Herbie was great. But there's some parts in there I'm like, oh, okay. So they did the Marvel thing where they don't show the actual scene. Like they have parts of the scene that is there, but they digitally probably took somebody out or something. Overall, I thought it was a fun trailer. What do you think?
Okay. Overall, I enjoyed it. I do think it's funny. Like, I think the Thing looked comics accurate, but he didn't look good yet. You know what I mean? I know that's the thing where like they're going to be working on him up until like the last minute. Yeah, but he looked like he looked like a cartoon character on the screen. Like the CGI wasn't there yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was my other problem with him too. He's not as big as he should be.
Yeah. We'll see how that all turns out. I mean, the fact that was it Michael Chiklis looked better, like in terms because he was wearing a rock suit, in the old FF films, looked better than the CGI version. It's like I said, he looks more comics accurate, I think, but I do think that they're gonna be working on that up to the last minute. We have a little bit of a Sonic the Hedgehog situation here,
right.
The only other thing I did not like was the posters that accompanied it. They made like these like cool like retro posters. They were all made with AI, and I'm like, you guys are Marvel. Like, you can't get a dude in a costume and a photographer. Like,
Right.
you got to use AI for that. Like, didn't you learn literally, did not you learn your lesson from Secret Invasion?
Yeah. But yeah,
That
I
opening
guess not.
sequence from
Yeah.
Secret Invasion was literally also AI, and I was like, what was
Right.
that garbage? You know what I mean? Like, come on. But I don't know. It'll be fine.
Going on the posters though, check out Boss Logic's posters.
Okay.
He always does amazing these Photoshop arts. Like check out his Fantastic Four posters.
Okay.
They're really good. Like they're very subtle in everything. It's
I like
like
that stuff though.
yeah, no, it's awesome.
The other thing I think is interesting is like the Galactus and the 1960s of it all. I honestly, I'm gonna put myself into a corner here, but I don't know much about what the story is. I kind of backed off from like learning stuff. I'm just like, like I said, after Nerdist and G4, I'm just like, oh, I'll watch the movie in the theater and like, be pleasantly surprised. I definitely am like, I have to assume this is taking place in an alternate universe or an alternate dimension, because if this is taking place in the 60s, and Galactus is showing up, like you think that the modern version of the Avengers and all them would kind of know about this big planet-eating purple monster. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's also a alternate universe, like you said. It's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, it's got to be like an alternate universe, and somehow at the end they get time dilated and dimensionally shifted to the modern day MCU, because that's where it's got to end, with them ending up in the MCU, a la Captain America, the first Avenger kind of style, except dimensionally moving too. The TVA has something to do with it or whatever,
or maybe an incursion. It's probably the start of the incursion stuff.
That's true. You got a good point there. I forgot about that. Yep, that'd be another way to.
One kind of problem though I have with Fantastic Four that I'm just is from the beginning of the casting. It's just there's not a lot of diversity on this movie. It's kind of a lot of white people, and I mean, I understand it's from the books and stuff, but there are some opportunities that they could do to,
and we may still see it. Remember, this is just a teaser trailer we've gotten. We don't know what the rest of the film is going to look like or whatever. So, but it's a good point.
It could have had some other people. Like it seems like Pedro's there. That's great, but there's more opportunities that they could have had, because I say this to a lot of people. People don't understand how many Marvel characters have come from Fantastic Four. Have started in the Fantastic Four, so there's just a lot of opportunities they could have, and we haven't seen yet. But that's my 2 cents on that one.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I'm excited for Galactus, that he's not a cloud. I'm excited. I think that the whole scene where you see Johnny, through flying and stuff. I think he's chasing Silver Surfer.
Well,
I think that's the whole thing. That's what brings him up to space.
Oh, okay.
Is that it's either that or he's trying to test his limits, but I think that's what he's kind of going through and trying to. So I think that's what was digitally, erased
out
there.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
I'm excited for the movie. I'm a big Fantastic Four fan.
From what I understand, if you're interested, maybe we'll do an episode on this. But if you're really interested, they're really looking at the life story arc of Fantastic Four. It was like a 6-issue miniseries by Mark Russell, I want to say. Who's actually, I really like that guy. He's a really good writer. But it's like, what if the Fantastic Four actually aged in real life from the 1960s, like now? They did a recent story. They did one with not Captain America. I'm sorry, Spider-Man. It was a Spider-Man life story, and that was I think Chip Zdarsky did that one. But they're really fun. It's like, what if? Okay, here's what took place in the 60s, and then here's what happens if he was in Vietnam. You know what I mean? Like a Vietnam action. Yeah. So they say that's the big impetus to all of this. So they said we could probably do an episode on that later. But anyway,
I think we should, because it does seem like the big threat in Life Story was Galactus. It was. Yeah. I liked how they portrayed him in Life Story, where Reed is just like, I have no idea, and that's the smartest person in the world. Like, I don't know how to stop this. This is coming. We have to figure this out.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Even when Galactus first shows up, it's a Deus Ex Machina thing. It's like, hey, he's got a toy on his ship that we're going to use to get him to go away. Right. He's threaten the death of his existence. The ultimate nullifier.
Like, if this movie doesn't have the ultimate nullifier, I'm going to call it an automatic fail. If it doesn't even look like the Jack Kirby ultimate nullifier, automatic fail.
Fantastic fail?
Yeah, fantastic fail.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, let's I think we've spent a good time talking about the MCU. Let's actually get into some of the stuff we want to discuss as well, which is the Red Hulk, which is making his on-screen debut in Captain America 4. Obviously we've seen Thunderbolt Ross in the past. Well, I'll back off a second. Let's pick it up from the beginning. Like, go ahead.
We normally have a blurb on the back, but we have not many books, but there's multiple books in this, so we're not going to really do a blurb on the back, but we're going to do kind of like the description that's on Marvel.com. And so here's kind of just a quick description. As a young man, Thaddeus Ross enlists in the military and receives his nickname from his troops because he struck like a thunderbolt. Excuse me, if I could reach right when leading them he struck like a thunderbolt when leading them into action. He rises the ranks to general and boasts a powerful hatred of Bruce Banner, aka the Hulk, spending his career hunting the monster down, and now he's the very thing he hates most in life. He is the Red Hulk.
I mean, that's it right there. He made his first appearance back in 1962 in Incredible Hulk 1. He was the 3-star general who ran the New Mexico base where they're testing the gamma bomb that Bruce Banner is working on. And yeah, he's basically known. He's kind of, I hate to say this, but he's a very static character. He's like almost
one note.
Yeah, he's basically known for his love of his daughter, his hatred for Bruce / the Hulk, and for not ever giving up. Like, he will not give up. He's relentless. And it's like I said, it reminded me very much of J. Jonah Jameson. There's a lot of parallels there where it's like he loves his son, J. Jonah Jameson. He hates Spider-Man, and he will not give up in terms of I'm going to bring the Spider-Man down. You know what I mean? It's kind of one note. And well, let's talk about his powers real quick. So outside of Thunderbolt Ross being a pretty brilliant tactician, arguably, he's a 3-star general.
I mean, he's a 3-star general, yeah.
And he is a good soldier and all that. What does the Red Hulk bring to it all, if you don't mind me asking, Josh?
The Red Hulk is a lot like the regular Hulk, and he is superhuman strength that's lifting around 100 tons as baseline. Like Hulk, he's a little bit stronger than Hulk at baseline. His stamina and durability, he can regenerate from serious he can regenerate from serious injuries within minutes, just like the Hulk. I mean, and his biggest difference from the Hulk, other than his pigmentation, is that instead of getting stronger when he is angry or enraged, he actually generates this really intense heat, and the heat can be released through his eyes, or he can kind of melt through Spider-Man's webbing, or turn sand into glass and things.
Yeah, there's that great panel where the two of them are fighting, and he gets in the whole round around them is all just like glass.
Yeah. And he can also absorb energies too. So again, the gamma radiation and even cosmic radiation. I think he has a problem with negative zone energy, but
yeah, that's
yeah. And then again, another big difference is that he retains his intellect. That's not something that Bruce can do all the time.
Yeah, and also when he gets knocked out, he doesn't revert back to human form.
Only the reason for that is just to keep the mystery alive too.
That was the only reason.
That's the only thing.
Well, if he reverts back down, we'll know who he is.
Right.
So speaking of which, the creator of this is a writer named Jeff Loeb. Arguably, he wrote the first arcs of this character. He was an award-winning writer. He has won nominated for Emmys. He's won Eisners, and he is known for equal parts greatness and equal parts shittiness. And I hate to say that, but it is true. I mean, he has written books like The Long Halloween. He's written Superman for All Seasons, Hush, Daredevil Yellow, and Spider-Man Blue, and Hulk Gray, and Captain America White. And, the dude is a good writer. His Superman Batman stuff is excellent.
I loved his Superman Batman stuff, especially this first one with Ed McGuinness.
Yeah. The problem is that there's also other stuff that he does that also is just what were you thinking, man? I hate to say this, and I don't want to put it on his shoulders, but arguably, he is single-handedly responsible for destroying the Ultimate Universe back in the day. He did 2 books at the same time, basically, Ultimates 3 and Ultimatum. And in Ultimatum, he literally kills off 34 people within the span of an issue. and horribly at that. Like he decapitates Magneto, and he has the Blob eat through the wasp. It's like, oh, she tastes like chicken. It was horrible. It wasn't even entertaining. It was just macabre, almost more than anything else. It was like I felt dirty after reading it. I was like, what was this? Why did we buy this? The Ultimates book, he literally has teamed up with Joe Madureira, coming on the heels of Brian Hitch and Mark Millar. And in this 5-issue miniseries, like, he gets really into the incest between Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. There's like a bunch of other weird shit. It felt dirty around there, and I know the reason why, and I'm not going to actually get into that. I don't think it's really cool to like talk about, but there is a reason that I believe why this all kind of happened. But it's sad because, like I said, some of the stuff he does is top notch. It is excellent, and other stuff is like, dude, what is this? And unfortunately, Red Hulk, or at least his run on Red Hulk, is one of those books that either you're like, I'm going to fucking love this because it's Saturday morning cartoons, or I'm going to fucking hate this because it makes no goddamn sense.
Anyway. Yeah. Like with Jeff Loeb, he was kind of on my shit list for a while because he was ruining the books off the heels of ones that I loved, like Ultimates. And then Ultimate Story. I was like, oh my gosh, Jeff Loeb and Joe Madureira, that's going to be amazing. And then they're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
The Hulk, I was after World War Hulk, I was very high on the Hulk. I was like ready for like Ed McGuinness and Jeff Loeb together again, and then it was just kind of not to the same bar that I was hoping for.
Well, so before we talk about that, I want you to talk about a little bit about Ed McGuinness, because that's your boy, right? Ed McGuinness is the artist for this.
Yeah, he's the artist for this. But I do have a Jeff Loeb story before we get into Ed McGuinness. I have an embarrassing moment when I met Jeff Loeb.
Another one?
I know, like it's just kind of like it's my thing now. I'm just gonna be like one of those idiots and stuff. So I remember this was I went to see X-Men Origins.
Okay.
So already off to a bad start. I was not in, because this was when I was living in Hollywood. So I was I went to see it in Grauman's Chinese Theater. It was Grauman's at the time. It was in the big theater, so where you could see where they do all the stuff. So I got my hot dog, I got my soda, I got like my candy. I'm ready to go. And then I turn around and it's just Jeff Loeb right behind me. He's going to see the movie. So, well, I hope it was Jeff Loeb. I go, I'm sorry, are you Jeff Loeb? And he's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, I am. I was like, oh, okay.
Sure I am.
Like, yeah, I was like, oh God, please be this dude. All right, whatever. So even if it wasn't, then even better. I just made an idiot in front of myself. So I went to go and shake his hand. It's like, I'm a big fan of your writing and your work. As I do that, I drop my hot dog like right in front of him. He goes, oh my God. He goes, oh, kind of lost something there, didn't you? Like, oh my God. Oh yeah. And then, so I go and she goes, oh, nice to meet you. Okay, thank you. I don't get out of line. I turn right about face to the guy selling. It's like, I just dropped my hot dog. Can I get a new one, please? And then just left and went right into the movie. So, it's just one of those, who did Josh embarrass himself in front of today?
Yeah, that's good, man. That's really good.
And
well, that's the sad part.
That was the night too before we saw the guy.
Was that the one where the car accident?
Car accident, yeah. Where you and I were at a bar.
Yeah, we were at a bar one time, and like we're literally, and a car like gets clipped. It starts beelining towards us at the bar because it's like a bar that was like outside.
Yeah.
It like beelines at us, and we're within like 5 feet of it, just careening into us, and then it swerves and goes through the building on the other side of the street.
It went fully into a furniture store in front of. They had a huge bay window to show all the furniture in there. It was fully in there. The car was not just like halfway in or in the side. It was like it was on display. It was like on display.
I was just like, holy shit!
Yeah.
USA.
Yes. Like, did that just happen? Because at first we were like, oh God, the guy just got hit like when he was coming out of the thing, and then all of a sudden go, you're skirt right into there.
I mean, to be fair, he had like inches of clearance on both sides of that window. He could have. It
was a perfect fit. Yeah, it was like he parked there. It was amazing.
I forgot about that story.
God, it was amazing, and that was like the most eventful weekend of like my time, like too.
Huh, I forgot about
that, and that's why I was able to see it because I was on the Sunday shift at E, so I had the Friday off or something like that. It was. But oh my God, that was nuts. So
no, all right. That was worth the digression. That was worth the digression.
Hey, yeah.
So tell us about the artist.
Ed McGuinness.
Immerse yourself in front of him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I know. Thank God I haven't met him yet.
Yeah.
So a lot of his, he has a very distinctive art, which is great. It is a positive term that it's very comic booky.
Yeah.
It is, which it's not too realistic. It's not, the Alex Ross, but it's not too cartoony. It's right in that sweet spot for me.
It feels like, to me, like if Batman the Animated Series was like hyper stylized.
I was just about to say that. Yeah, that's a great point. Yes.
And it's not like he's like there's like that broad shoulders and the thick arms and the big cleft chins and all that. That's what his art looks like to me.
Yeah. It's not as boxy as the Tim versus, they're all kind of their chests are very boxy and straight lines. This is more, like you said, kind of
anatomical, but
anatomical, correct. And it's very, Superman-y. And he has worked with Jeff Loeb a lot. He's worked on Deadpool, Avengers, Spider-Man, Nova. So he's done a lot of good work, and he's again one of my favorite artists. Like usually when I see him on a book, my eyes perk up.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's interesting. Yeah. Well, it's funny, and so the actual origins of the Red Hulk came out of him coming back to Marvel. Actually, he had been doing work over at DC for a bit. He'd come back to Marvel. I think it was around 2006, 2007, and he was going to do a Hulk book with Jeff Loeb. But it was going to be called The Strongest There Is. They were going to do a Hulk book coming off the heels of World War Hulk, where it's like, hey, we're going to have the Hulk. He's going to fight Thor. He's going to fight they literally said he's going to punch the Watcher out, because like the Watcher came like, oh, I've got a front row seat to this thing. I'm going to punch the Watcher. They were going to do like a greatest hits of the Hulk, just knocking heads and just like fighting everybody and just proving how strong he was. That's when Joe Quesada, who was EIC at the time, walks into the office and is like, hey, here you're doing a Hulk book. I want you to do it this way, though. I want you to do a Red Hulk, and we want to know who it is. We want to build a mystery into it. And that's where the origins of the character came from, was that, Joe Q comes in, says, hey, get to work. And they're like, cool, we can do that. I know mystery. I wrote The Long Halloween. We can do this.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff was repurposed that they would already been working on for a Hulk book, and they put it into this book. And, I have mixed feelings about the Red Hulk when it comes to that. Like, because it's not edgelord in the sense that like, oh, look how dark and mysterious I am, but it's certainly over the fucking top,
Yeah. He's frat boy Hulk. He kind of seems like, and in a way it kind of works for the character, because here's Thunderbolt Ross getting another kind of lease of life. Like he's become the ultimate kind of human being in a way. And also his his confidence, his cockiness is also gamma irradiated. So it I think that kind of makes, and I'm not saying I like it. It just makes kind of sense for the character.
Yeah.
Just like it's everything inside kind of, it's like the whole Captain America thing. Everything inside just comes out times 1,000. And it was this huge mystery of who the Red Hulk was.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really what it is right there. Is, for those who don't know, back in 2008, coming off the heels of Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, it was like, we're going to introduce a new Hulk, and we're not going to tell you who he is. It's be this big mystery. And for 2 years, it was this big mystery, and there was a lot of bait and switches. There was a lot of like, red herrings. There was a lot of like all this crap. And then it turns out, it's Thunderbolt Ross. Jeff Loeb sets up this character like it's a big mystery. Who's it going to be? And then they go out of their way to be, it can't be this person. It can't be this. And it certainly can't be Thunderbolt Ross because of this. He is dead right here. Or we meet them, the two of them meet and all of this. And then we see the Red Hulk go and kick some ass. And then it's all of a sudden it's revealed, oh, it's Thunderbolt Ross the whole time. It was like, well, what the fuck? What the fuck was that?
They went to the army base and they got scanned, and it's actually him. But then they used one of the tropes that I do not like Marvel
LMDs.
using, that the 3 horrible letters LMD. But he wasn't just an LMD. It was
an LMD, for those who don't know, is life model decoy. It's basically a robotic version or an android-like version clone, for lack of a better word, but it's an android of you that you can use to deceive people. It's like, oh my God, Nick Fury got killed. No, I was using an LMD. I was back on the helicarrier. Haha. It's the same thing with Doom bots. It's like, oh, you can never trust that that's actually, you can't ever trust that that's actually Dr. Doom or if it's a Doom bot. And so they use a super version of an LMD because they go out of their way to say that it's not an LMD. You know what I mean? This is one of those books where I'm assuming you read it when it came out, probably like issue by issue, or did you read it in trade, or how did you read it? And we always ask that question.
The first time when I read the first kind of 2 or 3, and I was like, I can't keep up with this. I was not feeling it, to be honest. It has its moments. When we were rereading, it was having its moments, but when you're coming off that high of the World War Hulk, and you're just, it's just a very not disappointing. It just wasn't to where I was hoping it would be.
I get that. Yeah, I at the time I enjoyed it for what it was. I did enjoy the mystery aspect of it because I'm like, oh, cool. Well, it's not him and it's not him. Even though there were clues, but then there were like anti-clues. For example, like in the first issue, I think, like, or first, second issues, he calls like one of the characters a milksop, which if you go to the first issue of Incredible Hulk, that's literally what Thunderbolt Ross calls, I think, Bruce Banner, a milksop. So it's like, oh, well, that's got to be it. But then like Thunderbolt Ross has a mustache, like J. Jonah Jameson, but when he turns into the Hulk, the mustache is gone. So it can't be him because we've seen Hulk before keep his facial hair when he still hulks out from in Bruce Banner and all that, you know? We've seen Hulk with facial hair when he's Maestro. So it's like, well, where did it can't be him. The mustache is gone. No, it turns out like his skin grows so big it sucks the mustache back in because his lips are so big. It's like, get the, are you kidding me? So stupid stuff like that. But like, when it's finally revealed that it was him, I was like, wait a minute, you lied to us. You literally lied to us. Like, you told us for sure it is not this character. There's, there's a super life model decoy that was him. It's just like that kind of stuff pisses me off. It's like, and that's what like made me really frustrated with the mystery aspect of it. It's like, you can't do that where you set up all these clues and like you ask the audience to go on this ride for us and then be like, oh, pull the rug out for us at the last second. And that's what happened with that book at the time, because they really was, that 2 years was all about that mystery,
Right. And in the Red Hulk, like you said, he was going through their original plan where he did fight Thor. He did fight a new abomination. And he killed the original abomination.
Yeah.
He punches out the Watcher, which when we were rereading all the Hulk stuff, it just made me realize that they overused 2 things, LMDs and the Watcher. They had the Watcher show up because he's supposed to be a very special kind of aspect. Like when he shows up, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
They had him show up when Bruce Banner sees Betty Ross in a parade.
Yeah.
I was like, why is it, what? That was just kind of like, okay, it's an overused kind of thing to make like your moments too big for what it was.
Well, and that's the problem with that whole character initially anyway, is like every single time it's like he wrecks everybody. He grabs Thor's hammer. Granted, it's in space, and so there's no gravity, but it's like he's able to wield Mjolnir in space. Stuff like that. It's like he's riding on Silver Surfer's surfboard along with Terex's axe, and just like it's a lot of just like this, like over. It's like how OP I am, and then it's like, okay, now that we've proven you're OP, everyone can then beat you up. Like the next issues, everyone's just beating him up left and right. It's like that power, the weird power creep, and then just like take it away, like just hack him at the knees. You know what I mean? Because well, it's too powerful now. Well, we can't have that. We can't have Captain America getting beaten up by him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And I think the more interesting part about the Red Hulk, I think, was the creation in the background of him in the storyline. Not just like the Marvel, but like how he was.
You mean like created. Leader and intelligentsia and all that stuff?
Intelligentsia and stuff, because they had that short, the short miniseries of the intelligentsia and how they kind of had to go through each of these moments. It was kind of like you have the Illuminati, remember the Brian Bendis book Illuminati, where it's like different moments in
the
time
history
of Marvel.
It's like
them meeting up and stuff.
Yeah.
They did that with the intelligentsia too. At just different moments throughout Marvel history of them coming together after or before different events, and them all kind of trying to do their whole plan. Like they put their plan on stop because of what's happened, and then Doom is part of it, but he kind of it turns on them and things like that. So I thought that was a lot more interesting than the actual Hulk run,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
another. I mean, we can't not talk about Samson of it all
Oh yeah.
too during this whole run. Yeah. So, and the Betty Ross of it all too.
Um,
Um,
it that's the thing is like, at the time when I read, so Samson turns out to be a fucking piece of shit, which
yeah.
sucks because like I actually kind of like Doc Samson. You know what I mean? Like one of my favorite issues, I believe it's X Factor. I want to say it's like X
Yeah.
Factor
Yeah.
87. And it's when he does this like whole like breakdown of all the members of X Factor, Quicksilver, and all
Oh
that.
no,
But
it's X Factor
no,
78.
90, is it 78?
No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I don't know
Okay,
the
I was
number.
like,
I'm just giving you.
fucking
That's just giving you shit.
shit. I was
You
like,
probably know
fucking.
more than Andy.
I think
You just know. I'm really just giving you.
I think it was X Factor 87 or 88, but it's a great issue where it's just like them basically going to a therapy appointment with Doc Samson and he breaks them down and it's really cool. So I've always liked the character, but it was like in this one, he's just like an arrogant prick. You know
Well,
what I
he
mean?
has multiple personalities.
I
It's a
know,
whole
but it's
multiple
like,
thing. It's like, come on,
cool. The therapist has got multiple personality disorder. Great.
great.
Cool. Um, yeah, like, I don't know. Like there's another issue, I believe, when he takes on She-Hulk and just like fucks her up for no, and it's like almost like for no reason. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's just to prove how OP he is. And he does it to Iron Man. He does it to Thor. It's just like, okay, we get it. You're awesome. Cool. And then, like I said, it's just after that, like everyone could beat up the Red Hulk after that.
yeah. It was a weird way of establishing him as a threat when it could
Yeah.
have been just done in one key moment. You
Yeah.
don't need to have him go against everybody
Mm-hmm.
like that. Like Tony Stark was head of Shield at the time, so he goes
Yeah.
through his whole gold helicarrier. Of the Red She-Hulk too, which I think that was a little bit too much at once.
Yeah, it
Red
was.
She-Hulk.
Well, it's because they had
The Red
success with
Hulk.
the Red Hulk is hot. What else can we do? Well, we got Red She-Hulk. It's like, cool.
Yeah, and
Great.
she was kind of basically the same character as the Red Hulk, beating everybody or being a threat. It was a lot at once. I think that was the whole thing too.
Well, it's
After
funny.
a long methodic
storyline
of the Hulk, you have this all at once. You have a new abomination who's called A-Bomb, which
was Rick Jones, wasn't it?
It was Rick Jones, but it was like A-Bomb.
Yes, I get it. I get it. It's very clever.
It's not.
It's
not.
What I was going to say though is going back and rereading it now with like hindsight being 2020. I have to admit I enjoyed it more the second time I read it. Like the first time I read it just because like the mystery aspect, and then at the end of it I was like, that was it. It kind of soured the whole run. And then going back and rereading it as it is, I'm like, I read it as like just like a Saturday morning cartoon. I'm like, it's kind of fun. It's not good. I don't recommend it, but it's fun.
A spoiler alert.
Yeah,
when we talk about if we recommend it.
Well, no, it's kind of stupid. Like I said, it's just like some of it doesn't make any sense. And just like, and if you just like kind of turn that part off of your brain, which it's kind of hard to do sometimes. Like, I don't know if it works, but man, is it not beautiful? Is it not fun? It's stupid, but it's fun, and that's what Saturday morning cartoons are: stupid fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess my disappointment was overshadowing it. Even when reading it again, it was just reminding me. It's like I really gonna go read World War Hulk right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, I mean, it's funny I was rereading some of the stuff today. I was just like, man, I'd rather just be reading, literally rereading
books on the back. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to we'll get what should fans read afterwards. But
yeah.
Like, yeah. But, I don't
so
think
going
we
on
need
through.
Go ahead.
We're just going. We were doing the same thing. I was just moving on because we had the mystery, and then from there it kind of culminates to this World War Hulk's storyline, where it's kind of like, you are Hulk, you get a Hulk, you get to be Hulk,
you get a Hulk,
yeah.
Well, and it was just riffing off World War Hulk, the title and all that, and that's when we finally get the reveal who it is.
Yeah, and then that's also the intelligentsia culmination of them trying to take over the U.S., but then the Hulk turns on them, and which I think will have something to do with the Brave New World.
Yeah,
that's why I think it's going to be.
Well, leaders in it. We know that Sam Stearns is back and all that. So
yeah, and they've already established LMDs in the MCU. It's if you question Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. being canon or not, but they had a whole season about LMDs. That's what I mean by this whole world building of Captain America. There's going to be adamantium. There's going to be a whole bunch of different stuff. But
That's
the
cool.
Intelligentsia, I think it's can be a cool underground type of thing. So hopefully, and
I
the
have a question.
leader is great.
Question for you. This is a little bit off topic, and we do see one of the posters like with Hulk's hands crushing the shield. Do you think we're going to get that in the movie? Like he'll crush the Captain America shield? We've
I
seen the shield We've seen the shield broken before, obviously. In it was
Yeah,
Endgame.
but Thanos
Yeah.
in Endgame, I don't. I mean, maybe because if you take the how hot he gets,
Mm-hmm.
if they put that into effect, because
Yeah.
vibranium is
It's not right.
vibranium is only malleable
Yeah.
sound. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's we get. I don't know. That's a good question. I think.
Well, let's go with the over under. I'm going to go yes. We will see the shield somehow warped in some way, and not a paint job warp. Like it'll be somehow warped in some way. I'm gonna put money on that. Which usually I'm wrong, by the way. I'm just gonna let you know all my predictions always end up wrong. So
I have a funny joke with my wife. If I'm doing a coin toss and if it's 50-50, I'm always on the wrong side. It's 50-50 usually, but for me it's 0 out of 50.
Like,
but it could be how they do the whole, they fix it with adamantium. So you have the whole how originally vibranium and adamantium as the shields. That's how come in.
Because
So
in the comics, I believe the shield is a vibranium alloy. It's not pure vibranium; it's a vibranium adamantium alloy. Actually, I believe, right?
Yeah, and it's some titanium. It's a mix of the two fictional hardest metals and one of the real hardest metals. I think something like that. Yeah. So, but for World War Hulks, it's the intelligence is trying to take over the world. The turn using like Stern as an LMD Manchurian candidate type of character, and then you have Red Hulk turning on them, and then turning everybody to Hulks, and then it culminates with the actual Hulk beating him up, and everybody kind of going on. So I mean, and then from there he joins the Avengers for a little bit for.
Bendis's run,
Heroic Age,
Fear Itself,
and Fear Itself, which that was a good issue with the Fear Itself when he fights the Thing, the hammer.
Off topic, I think Fear Itself gets a little too much haterade. By the way, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's a real fun. Obviously, it was a Thor Captain America centric book because Thor and Captain America were literally coming out that year. It was like the first of the Marvel films, or some of the first Marvel films. I really liked it. I don't know why people hate it as much as they do, or maybe I'm just reading wrong blogs or something like that. I don't know.
I like the aspect of everybody getting a different hammer or something. It kind of reminded me of the old school.
It was like Green Lantern Corps. Everyone's getting like their own like hammer. Well, you get a Green Lantern ring, and you get, but
it also kind of reminded me of like old school. Remember when Apocalypse used to just take random people and become part of his horsemen? That's kind of reminded me of.
I mean, I'm way off topic, but I really like what is it when Colossus gets the Sidorak gem and becomes basically Juggernossus or whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was fun issues. Anyway, I digress.
No, we'll discuss that another. That's our thing too. We go on tangents and we tease other episodes.
Yeah,
so
that we'll eventually do because
that's what we do, baby.
Well, and then after that, he joins the Red Thunder or Thunderbolts Red or Red Thunderbolts or whatever it is.
Yeah, which with the leader who was a red leader at the time.
Red leader at the time.
Turned red.
Punisher with the red skull as opposed to like a white skull, and you have Elektra there.
Elektra. And I was an
okay run. Deadpool? Was it Deadpool as well?
I think Deadpool. Honestly, that's how good of a story it was. If we can't really recall it at the time,
it was fine. It was typical Thunderbolts stuff, which is we need to do an episode on the Thunderbolts, and because Thunderbolts has turned into the Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad. That's what the Thunderbolts are currently. It's a reformed criminals hoping not to get killed to get reduced sentences. But the original version of the Thunderbolts, like the Kurt Busiek stuff, that stuff is excelente. But
much different, but in a good way different.
Yeah.
He was also in a quick team up 6-part event with starting with like Venom, but he was in a like this little team, and they were like fighting beasts in hell and stuff with Ghost Rider, X-23, and the Flash Thompson Venom, and they even at one point kind of merged all together at one point. So it's like this huge Venom, Ghost Rider, the whole thing. It was actually a really fun book.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, you've got a symbiote shard covered Hulk with the spirit of vengeance. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, on a huge motorcycle too.
Yeah, exactly.
It was Rick Remender and
Okay.
a whole bunch of other people. It was a fun book. I like,
Okay.
you know what, I like Red Hulk in teams. I think he's one of those beings that are just better in teams.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, you do see that when he joins the Avengers team. I remember this very distinctly. When he's on some of those Avengers squads, when Bendis is writing, it's like he's very effective on those teams. I thought he was written well on those teams as well. But using him as your primary protagonist, I think it falls a little short. And I think it falls short. Well, actually, I take that back. I think it falls short when there's like big mystery around it. Because ironically enough, the arc after Jeff Loeb left the Book of Hulk and Jeff Parker took over, that's when like the character really began to shine. You know what I mean? We're going to go on these missions and you've got to basically redeem your sentence. And that's when you start to see the character actually work.
Yeah, and it's great when you know it's Thunderbolt, so everything makes sense after that.
Yeah.
I think that's what helps too. Like, why it just makes sense that this old guy who has these powers, that he's just now kind of going crazy with this tactical mind too. So, and also who had a good run with him though too is Mark Waid, right?
Well, it wasn't like a run. He pops up in Mark Waid's run of Hulk basically, and he just like shows up there. I mean, that's the thing, is like he kind of basically makes appearances here and there. They are bringing him back currently. I think they're bringing back because obviously the movie's coming out right now, so you can expect the new series, and I think it's going to be tying into the whole One Nation Under Doom story that they're doing right now. But yeah, we'll see. There is a couple other people who have become Red Hulk.
What?
Yeah, there was with General Maverick from U.S. Avengers, and he keeps the mustache, and that's cool. I guess.
But it was like a patch thing, right? Like it was he had a gamma patch.
Yeah, it was that, and he had a mustache, and he gets to carry guns, and whatever.
He kind of reminded me of like that whole like Hour Man in JSA.
Yeah, that's right.
The
you have a limited amount of time to use. Yeah, it's like
yeah.
And then of course Mr. Fix-It, who's one of the personalities within Bruce Banner, he mutates into it. I think during the Immortal Hulk run, you see him when they're down in the down below. I think Mr. Fix-It turns red at some point, but it's due to cosmic energy.
Yeah, I was about to say because he absorbed cosmic energy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Other than that, though, I mean, like that's basically Red Hulk for you. I mean, I do think if you really want to know the character, you really should read the Jeff Loeb stuff. Just go in with like the biggest grain of salt. Like, I mean, like a salted rim on your margarita.
Yeah.
That's how much salt you want when you read this sucker. Like I said, Jeff Loeb is one of those writers that it's either he hits or he misses. And this one, it's almost like half of one, 6 dozen of the other. Or really was it half a dozen, 6? I don't remember the phrases, but it's like he hits sometimes, and the art is great. The art is fun, and it's over the top, and it's Saturday morning. But then you kind of peel back those layers. You're like, wait, this doesn't work. If you think too hard about it, it all falls apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were talking on the last episode how the rereadability of Grant Morrison, which is like, this moment kind of ties into this moment, which is great, and you can read back. I don't think this really has that. I think it tries really hard for that.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have that.
Well, again, it just points out the flaws. It points out the flaws when you go back and reread it. If you look at it like almost like in a weird way, which it's funny. I'm going to say the show Lost. When you're watching Lost, it is one of the best rides. And then you go back and wait a minute, what the hell were they talking about? Like that didn't work. What, you know what I mean? Like if you were watch Lost, it was like that. It was like it in the moment. It's like great roller coaster. The second you get off the roller coaster, you're like, wait a minute, what the fuck? None of that made sense. And I just realized Jeff Loeb wrote on Lost. So
there you go.
A little parallel there.
And also a little parallel. Thunderbolt Ross. He's in a family of gamma radiated beings. Is just like Teen Wolf, where no connection to. I just wanted to say that Jeff Loeb also wrote Teen Wolf.
He wrote that in Teen Wolf 2, which he wrote Teen Wolf 2 with the guy who created Heroes, Tim Kring. I'm not kidding. And they ended up working on Heroes together 20 years later.
Oh, goodness. And then everybody was a werewolf there. It was weird. And Jason Bateman showed up
for some reason, yeah. So what would you recommend fans read if they are into the Red Hulk or into Hulk in general? What would you recommend, Josh? I mean, you have thoughts.
Well, I think what we were kind of saying too, if you're into the Red Hulk, awesome. Read the mystery stuff. If you saw the trailers and really intrigued you, I don't think they're going to be doing that same type of
No.
character for the movie. For
Mhm.
what we're seeing in the teaser and stuff, it seems like it's just another Hulk, which is a big deal
Mhm.
in the MCU. But he seems a big angry monster as before. I don't think he's smart. He's not going to be as smart as he is in the book. So I don't think you absolutely need to read any of the new, or excuse me,
Mhm.
not new, but any of the Red Hulk stuff
Mhm.
uh before. But if you really are into it, please read the Jeff Loeb stuff, read the
Jeff
here
Parker. Tell me Jeff
Jeff
Parker's if you.
Parker's run.
Yeah.
Yeah, really read that. I mean, read
But you need to read
read
like the Red Hulk stuff before to get to Jeff Parker's
yeah,
run.
exactly, yeah.
So
And then but if you want to read actually just more like Hulk stuff, which is, please do.
yeah, Hulk,
uh
right?
I mean, Brian, I don't know if you ever heard of like Peter David in his
Peter
run of the Hulk.
David? Peter David?
David, Peter David.
Mm.
Um, he has an epic run of the Hulk that I
Yes.
think it's a must read if you're a Hulk fan.
Yeah, I have all 5 omnis of his work. And yeah, it's hundreds of issues essentially of just his run. I love Peter David though. I'm a big Peter David guy. So, you know, the other one though, when we mentioned this earlier, was Immortal Hulk. What is your thoughts on it? We have to do Immortal Hulk at some point.
Yeah, to be honest with you, here I haven't read most of the Immortal Hulk because it was a more of a horror based kind of book, and
Mhm.
that's not too much my bag. But I've read a lot of the beginning stuff,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
did love the art and just how that was
well,
kind of like becoming.
it starts off as like a horror book, and then it does go into body horror, like it's very Cronenberg-y in that kind of way. But like the actual story, because it gets into like the real metaphysics of the Marvel universe, like the one above and the one below, and like all like the glowing door, and like it's like, oh wow, it's like getting into some real shit. And it's built within the continuity of like, nope, this is stuff that's in the MCU. It's not really MCU, but the Marvel comics. Like he's building on that. Al Ewing, I believe, was the writer on that. Great,
Right.
really good. And it's like only 50 issues plus a bunch of tie-ins.
Yeah, and I've heard good things too. I just haven't
Mhm.
gotten to it, and I did like what I saw when I was. I liked
Yeah.
how when you think about the Hulk in that kind of mindset is
Mhm.
very scary because there's
Yeah.
nothing that can stop him.
Yeah. No, nothing. He is the strongest there is. Another
And almost
recommendation.
invincible too. You can cut him up and he'll still be alive.
There's a great one where I think it was Peter David's run where he gets sliced across the chest or the guts rather, and he puts his hand against his guts to like hold his guts in, and he looks down. His skin has already grown over his hand, like his.
Ugh.
It was like he's like, and so he
Ugh.
literally has to rip his hand out of his chest.
Ugh.
It was really cool. I was like, oh wow, that's dope.
And Peter David's run, is that Maestro as well?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely you have to read the Maestro stuff.
Well, and the artists that he had when he was doing that, it was everything from Gary Frank to Todd McFarlane, Dale Neon. I'm blanking on a few of the other Mike Diodato. Like there was like, I mean, the artists that he had doing eventually when like it became like, oh, this is a run. Artists like cut their chops on that character with him, you know.
It's a very fun run, and the Maestro stuff was just one of my favorites.
Maestro's
He's
great.
again one of those, and they had that Maestro book that came out too. It's like a three-part, like three miniseries, which was also really good. Like how he became Maestro, like that and stuff. So,
which for those of you who don't know, Maestro is it's a far flung version of the Hulk who's like evil and taking over the world in a post apocalyptic, like Mad Max setting, basically.
Yeah. It's an unstoppable despot.
Yeah.
And
good fun stuff.
Yeah, and speaking of despots, we mentioned it before. It's the Planet Hulk and then the World War Hulk storylines. I think it's a must read too.
Mm-hmm.
The World War Hulk is the Hulk at that time, the strongest he's ever been, the angriest he's ever been, but also the most methodical he's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
He is the bad guy, but you're kind of on his side a little bit.
Yeah.
And which just makes him very good and makes it like such a fun book. It's got my boy JR 2 JR squared and
John Romita Jr.
Yeah, he's John Romita Jr. Thank you. And Greg Pak is just, I think he's at the level of Peter David where he's done one of my favorite things where he's taken a character that nobody really reads or nobody kind of looks at, elevates it so much that it becomes a top tier kind of book or character. Hulk's always been kind of, his book alone hasn't been too much of a big book. Like you can't compare it to like Captain America or the other books, but he brought it up to top tier, just like how Al Ewing is doing with Immortal Hulk. So those are just some great Hulk books that we think you should read.
And we're definitely going to cover some of them at some point.
Yes, I mean, I think we're going to cover everything we just talked about.
That's true.
But again, for the Red Hulk specifically, do the Who is Hulk, the World War Hulks, just kind of go through that line, the Jeff Loeb, Jeff Parker stuff.
Yeah. With that, do you have any recommendations, like weekly recommendations, Josh?
Yeah. So my pick this week is really, I've been liking, keeping within the Marvel family. I've been really liking the Avengers West Coast. The Jerry Dugan. I'm liking it. Okay. I know it's different for me. I liked how they got back to it. I like the Ultron. Okay. I mean, yeah, I know it's a left field pick, but I think it's, so far the last 3 issues have been interesting.
Okay, all right. Not my favorite take on the team, but I like Jerry a lot, so of course I'm buying it. Okay, all right, that's cool.
Again, I like when stuff is. I like the usage and the different spins.
I guess what threw me was when I watched Iron Man riding up on a scooter, and that kind of, and he was wearing a helmet. I was like, I get what you're going for here.
Safety first.
Yeah, I guess so. It just for some reason rubbed me the wrong way. But that all said, like I do love Jerry, like I really do. So I always, out of solidarity, will buy any of his books. That's cool. All right.
What about your pick?
You know what? Finally catching up with everything. I'm just basically have my Ultimate books to read, like the most current Ultimate stuff. So I've read all the Absolute books, all the Absolute Wonder Womans and the Supermans and all that. I've read Aliens versus Avengers. I've caught up on everything, all my G.I. Joes. And I got to say, it is a toss-up between those Absolute books and the Energon stuff. Was like just my favorite stuff out right now. Like the G.I. Joe books have been excellent. Transformers book has been excellent. The Void Rivals book is excellent. But man, that Absolute Wonder Woman was kick-ass. I really enjoyed the Absolute.
The art.
The art was really good. It had that nice indie feel to it. And I thought the Absolute Batman was great. I really enjoyed Absolute Superman. The question I have, though, is like, if we were to take out the Superman, the Batman, and the Wonder Woman of it all, and it was just like, this was a new hero. Like the Superman book is almost so far removed from Superman. Like if you're like, this is just a new hero called Ultraman or something like that, obviously there's an Ultraman. Like, would this resonate as well? Or is it because it's so tied to Superman, would it work as well? Not sure. Still, that Wonder Woman book is great. If you haven't had a chance, the Absolute books are absolutely something you should read.
Oh, man. That's a pun drop.
That's how I do.
I'm going to work on getting a sound more. Pun drop. Pun drop. But awesome. So it's a quick recommendations, and thanks for listening to us about the Red Hulk and just MCU in general.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll definitely have more discussions as they come, and we'll try to hit more books too as the different movies come out, and Superman 2 as well. Like all the movies that are coming out, we'll give you again like some stuff that you could brag to your friends that you learn some more information about this character while you're going into the movie.
Yeah, and we'll try to get the episodes out a little more consistently. We've been a little behind just because life, having a kid, fires, all that kind of weird stuff. Yeah. Lack of sleep, but that's no excuse.
No. We're going to get more consistent, and then we might even have some guests come in.
We will. That's actually going to happen as soon as, like we said, the rule is once we have a certain amount of episodes like in the can that we can have like a library of content. I'm gonna start pulling out the Rolodex and getting some people on.
Brian, old G4 and
G4,
Alpha
just like
and Nerdist,
comic book writers that I know as well. So we'll see what we can do.
Some name dropping going to happen.
Well, as much name dropping as we can be.
Yeah, I'll take anybody.
Who is that person? All right,
I'll have my parents on. I don't care. But thanks again for listening. Please make sure to continue to subscribe and tell everybody else to subscribe, and hit us up on Blue Sky on Instagram And if you're listening to us on, let's say, Spotify, we're also on SoundCloud, we're on Apple Podcasts, and we are on YouTube. So
That's right. Just as
YouTube,
audio, just audio.
just audio. You don't get to see my lovely face yet, but
yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Eventually, and then also make sure to give us them 5 stars, right?
Please. I know that I've actually seen some of our 5-star ratings are going up. We appreciate it. We really do. Thank you so much.
Nice.
Write a review. Say you love us. If you don't love us, pretend that you love us.
Yeah. If you don't love us, then go to ChatGPT and say, how do I write a 5-star review about a podcast that I'm okay about? And just give us that prompt.
And honestly, and I really do mean this, if you do have anything you want us to talk about or any book you want us to discuss, like, send us a DM. You can either hit me up on the BComp on Blue Sky, or you can hit up We Got Issues on Blue Sky as well. And we will legitimately, okay, we'll put it in the can. We'll make it happen, Captain.
Yeah, we'll put our We Got Issues spin on it. That's what we used to do on that Alpha show. We read books that we got recommendations on, and we gave it a really big deep dive breakdown of each issue. So that, please.
Yeah. Which, because right now we have not picked out the next topic for the next episode. So if you hit us up in the next week or so, there's a good chance it'll probably be that book.
Yeah, exactly. So, and also just keep an eye out on our social so you can see what else we're going to do on the next episode. So please keep an eye on that.
All right. To all y'all, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you much. And we'll see you next time.
Peace.